think this comes back to the environmental issues that have on the people that live out here and the impacts it would have on you. I think if you go back a year ago and you ask the average number of people in Whatcom County how many coal trains a day are coming through town, people couldn't answer that question with the coal that was going up to British Columbia. It wasn't until we started talking about this facility that people started noticing those coal trains over there on the side tracks in Ferndale next to the new park. So we need to make sure as we go through the process is the coal dust won't be an issue for the people of Whatcom County, that they can take care of that particular issue through treatment, through dusting it before it comes out with the different things that they coat it with. We have to make sure that, as I've sat through about 6 now of Craig Cole's presentations on the facility of what it will actually be, that they're going to live up to what they say with regards to their environmental standards. All the conveyor belts are covered. They do all the coal transfers in covered areas, that they're protecting the environment, the coal dust doesn't get out. If you haven't had an opportunity to listen to Craig give his presentation, I would recommend that you find out where he's going to be and go listen to what he is saying about the number of jobs that will be created and the environmental protections that will be in place, and how this particular facility is 180 degrees different than the current facility up in Tawasin with regards to how that is constructed. So that is what needs to happen as we move through the process. But I think it's important for the people who want to be county executive to be very clear on their view on jobs. I mean, do you support this or do you not support this? Whether it's coal or whether it's grain or whether it's tofu coming through on those trains. You know, do you support it or don't you? Are you standing up for the jobs or aren't you? Will you be a champion of it or will you be the one that fights them on it? That's what we need to find out. I support it. I think we should develop the Cherry Point industrial area to create those jobs. And if you have a county executive who is working with them to get that done, instead of fighting them and costing them hundreds of millions of dollars in courts and litigation, those are dollars they can reinvest to mitigate their impacts and also do things like invest back in our community to create the community that we want. So a $500 million to a $700 million investment in our area is huge. That number of jobs is incredible. And the ability of that company to be able to invest in our quality of life facilities, whether it's boys and girls clubs, sports fields, hospitals, and charities, we need that in our community. And that's why I'm standing up for that project. It's not a blank check to do whatever they want. You have to hold them accountable to what they say they're going to do.
And if we actually had trains shipping tofu to China, we would probably feed all of China with the amount of trains that potentially go through here. So that was just and maybe Tom sometimes says maybe that's a job producer that we can have here, because I think tofu can be made in Whatcom County. So we can produce it here and we can ship it to China and feed all of China. Way to go. So first off, I think Mr. Erickson asked a question about whether we support the Cherry Point facility. We didn't say that earlier. I support the Cherry Point facility 100%. This has been negotiated for almost 20 years, this port, this pier facility, and it's gone through large discussions and negotiations with the environmental community. And they negotiated that down, and there's near agreement, until they brought in coal as part of the conversation. And because the coal raises other issues. It raises issues because you cannot ship that much tofu to China. It's not going to happen, but you can ship that much coal to this facility, and you can ship it up to Canada probably. And so we're raising more impacts as a result of that. Diesel fumes, asthma, people with asthma, coal dust adjacent to the facility, wetlands, because we're filling so many more wetlands at this site. That has to be addressed. I've seen the pictures of the coal dust being put on, or the coal being put onto ships and what gets into the water. That has to be addressed. Shipping through the Strait of Juan Fuca with oil tankers, that has to be addressed. All these are major, major issues that have to be addressed. If they can be addressed, great, fantastic. So first off, I do support the Cherry Point facility. I have great concerns that have to be addressed about the coal itself.
Well, I'd also like to have a facility at Cherry Point. I think that it's an appropriate location for it, and it has industrial uses around it. I think the pier would be good. I also would like to see manufacturing jobs out there instead of a pass-through commodity. Coal is a challenge on an intellectual basis for me, because I just don't understand the U.S. energy policy where we won't burn it here, but we're willing to send it over to a country so that they can burn it, create jobs to compete against us. I have those concerns. Ultimately, Whatcom County has a land use decision to make, and the county executive needs to go through that process. Was challenged that that I'm not in favor of jobs. In the city of Linden, we opened up 270 acres of land in the West End because we see the need for our community to create good jobs. Along with that land, we have zoning and we have restrictions and we have land use. We aren't going to accept any industrial use out there. We want it to meet our standards. We want Cherry Point to do that also. You were asked specifically about Custer, Ferndale, and Cherry Point. We've got trains, we've got the environmental standards. For me, we've got noise living out here. I love our refinery and everything, but it's noisy. Now, is there going to be more noise with it? These are the things that the environmental impact statement are going to deal with. We just need to deal with an appropriate.
Coal terminals are not necessarily good neighbors. They're noted for dust, they're noted for noise, and that needs to be addressed, particularly for the residents of Birch Bay, because you're downwind of this facility. Clearly, we need to hold the proponents' feet to the fire of how they're going to address them. Can they be addressed? Probably. There's probably lots of things they could do. I'm sure they cost money. So it's going to take some public pressure and some standing up to big corporate interests to make sure that if this goes forward, they are addressed. But I think the biggest thing is the public needs to be fully informed of that. On the question of trains, it's really interesting because I was 5 minutes later getting here than I expected because I waited for a
Was there something I said?